Reading through the Bible in 1 year, April 13th, Leviticus 17, Psalms 20 through 21, Proverbs 31, and 1 Timothy chapter 2. The Lord spoke to Moses. Speak to Aaron, his sons, and all the Israelites, and tell them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Anyone from the house of Israel who slaughters an ox, sheep, or goat in the camp, or slaughters it outside the camp, instead of bringing it into the entrance to the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord before the tabernacle, before his tabernacle, that person will be considered guilty. He has shed blood and is to be cut off from his people. This is so the Israelites will bring the Lord the sacrifices that they have been offering in the open country. They are to bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting and offer them as fellowship sacrifices to the Lord. The priest will then splatter the blood on the altar, on the Lord's altar, at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. They must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat demons that they have prostituted themselves with. This will be a permanent statute for them throughout their generations. Say to them, anyone from the house of Israel or from the aliens who reside among them who offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to the Lord, that person is to be cut off from his people. Anyone from the house of Israel or from the aliens who reside among them who eats any blood, I will turn against that person who eats blood and cut him off from his people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have and I have appointed it to you to make atonement on the altar for your lives, since it is the lifeblood that makes atonement. Therefore I say to the Israelites, none of you and no alien who resides among you may eat blood. Any Israelite or resident alien among them who hunts down a wild animal or a bird that that may be eaten must drain its blood and cover it with dirt. Since the life of every creature is its blood, I have told the Israelites, you are not to eat the blood of any creature, because the life of every creature is in its blood. Whoever eats it must be cut off. Every person, whether the native or the resident alien, who eats an animal that died a natural death or was mauled by wild beasts is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, he will bear his iniquity. Now Psalms 20 through 21. May the Lord answer you in a day of trouble. May the name of Jacob's God protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and sustain you from Zion. May he remember all your offerings and accept your burnt offering. May he give you what your heart desires and fulfill your whole purpose. Let us shout for joy at your victory and lift up the banner in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your requests. Now I know that the Lord gives victory to his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with mighty victories from his right hand. Some take pride in chariots, and others in horses, but we take pride in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse and fall, but we rise and stand firm. Lord, give victory to the King. May he answer us on the day that we call. Psalm 21. Lord, the King finds joy in your strength. How greatly he rejoices in your victory. You have given him his heart's desire, and have not denied the request of his lips. For you meet him with rich blessings. You place a crown of pure gold on his head. He asked you for life, and you gave it to him, length of days forever and ever. His glory is great through your victory. You confer majesty and splendor on him. You give him blessings forever. You cheer him with joy in your presence. For the king relies on the Lord. Through the faithful love of the Most High, he is not shaken. Your right hand will capture all your enemies. Your right hand will seize those who hate you. You will make them burn like a fiery furnace when you appear. The Lord will engulf them with his wrath, or rather in his wrath, and fire will devour them. You will wipe their progeny from the face of the earth, and their offspring from the human race. Though they intend to harm you and devise a wicked plan, they will not prevail. Instead, you will put them to flight when you ready your bowstrings to shoot at them. Be exalted, Lord, in your strength. We will sing and praise your might. Now, Proverbs 31. The words of King Lemuel, a pronouncement that his mother taught him. What should I say, my son? What, son of my womb? What, son of my vows? Don't spend your energy on women, or your efforts on those who destroy kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire beer. Otherwise he will drink, forget what is decreed, and pervert justice for all the oppressed. Give beer to one who is dying, and wine to one whose life is bitter. Let him drink so he can forget his poverty and remember his trouble no more. Speak up for those who have no voice, for the justice of all who are dispossessed. Speak up. Judge righteously. There's a lot of notes here. I want to make sure we don't lose any of them here. So speak up, judge righteously, and defend the cause of the oppressed and needy. Who can find a wife of noble character? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will not lack anything good. She rewards him with good, not evil, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing their food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and portions for her female servants. She evaluates a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard with her earnings. She draws on her strength and reveals that her arms are strong. She sees that her profits are good, and her lamp never goes out at night. She extends her hands to the spinning staff, and her hands to hold the spindle. Her hands reach out to the poor, and she extends her hands to the needy. She is not afraid for her household when it snows, for all in her household are doubly clothed. She makes her own bed coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known at the city gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes and sells linen garments. She delivers belts to the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. Her mouth speaks wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her household and is never idle. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women have done noble deeds, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. Bringing up the rest of the notes, and there we go. All right, let's move on to 1 Timothy chapter 2. Paul continues. First of all, then, I urge that petitions, prayers and intercessions and thanksgivings be made for everyone, for kings and all those who are in authority, so that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and dignity. This is good, and it pleases God, our Savior, who wants everyone to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. For there is one God and one mediator between God and man, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all, a testimony at the proper time. For this I was appointed a herald, an apostle. I am telling the truth, I am not lying, and a teacher of the Gentiles in faith and truth. Therefore, I want the men in every place to pray, lifting up holy hands, without anger or argument. Also, the women are to dress themselves in modest clothing, with decency and good sense, not with elaborate hairstyles, gold, pearls, or expensive apparel, but with good works, as is proper for women who profess to worship God. A woman is to learn quietly, with full submission. I do not allow a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. Instead, she is to remain quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and transgressed. She will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with good sense. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the rest of the notes here, and then we're going to read the notes on this section because, again, it gets confusing for people. People tend to get hung up on this section, and they really don't need to be. It's pretty simple. There are, again, a lot of notes on this because, as I mentioned before, people get hung up on it. I'm going to read the note on the section here for Adam was formed first, then Eve, as the reason for him saying such. And I will read it out of the ESV Study Bible. For, the section here, for Adam was formed first, then Eve, introduces the biblical basis for the prohibition of verse 12, that she's not to teach over a man. Paul indicates that the prohibition is based on two grounds. First, being the order of creation, Adam, then Eve. And the second being the deception of Eve. Formed is the same term that the Septuagint uses in Genesis 2, 7 through 8, which evidently refers to creation. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 8 through 9 also references this. Paul's argument indicates that gender roles in the church are not simply the result of the fall, but are rooted in creation, and therefore apply to all cultures at all times. The meaning of this passage, however, is widely contested today. Some interpreters argue that the prohibition of 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12 does not apply today because, one, the reason for Paul's command was that women were teaching false doctrines in Ephesus. Or two, Paul said this because women in that culture were not educated enough to teach. Or three, this was only a temporary command for that culture. But Paul's appeal to the creation of Adam and Eve argues against those explanations. In addition, the only false teachers named in connection with Ephesus are men. And no historical evidence exists of women teaching false doctrine in first century Ephesus. Moreover, ancient inscriptions and literature speak of a number of well-educated women in that area of Asia Minor at the time. Finally, some have claimed that this passage only prohibits a wife from teaching or exercising authority over her husband, since the Greek word gine and aner, translated as woman and man in 1 Timothy 2:12, can also mean wife and husband in certain contexts. Given the immediate context of verses 8 through 9, however, the most likely meaning of the Greek words here in verses 11 through 14 would seem to be woman and man rather than wife and husband. Bringing up the rest of the notes here for you. All right, there we go. And that is all of the notes. That is all we have for today. So, God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.